there. I'm Kim Anderson from KimAndersonConsulting.com, and I'm excited about today's episode of Self-Made Writers. This is kind of my big first episode as I've transitioned away from my Just Keep Blogging podcast into this format. I talk about that on my last episode of Just Keep Blogging, so I won't go into it this time because I'm just ready to get started with the new topic and discussing new things. And honestly, this particular episode is going to be inspired by some questions that I got using the Clever.fm app. So I have a friend in San Francisco who recently started a new startup company for a podcasting app called Clever.fm. And it's really kind of exciting, like all the things they have shared with me and expressed as features and things like that are really pretty awesome. And so I hope that you guys, if you are podcast listeners, will go check out Clever.fm and find my show on there. And I'm putting like links to everything in the show notes. But I hope that you'll kind of go over there, check it out. It's been fun. In fact, today's episode is actually inspired by a conversation that was happening over on the app because I had a listener who asked a question about an episode, which is pretty awesome that you can do that. It's kind of taking podcasting social, which I appreciate because I feel like oftentimes like I end up trying to communicate with listeners in my Facebook group, which is a great supportive group. But then it's like, it's a lot more fun to be able to like just go straight to the episode and answer questions directly about that episode versus like trying to, cross over into a different platform and have a discussion about something and try to figure out which one people are referencing and things like that. So I hope you'll go check it out. But in today's episode, there was a question that one of the listeners asked, and that was just a feeling of concern because it's not unusual for us in the world of being, especially bloggers, like if you're a blogger or a content creator of any kind, to have seasons where, because we're basically self-employed and we are people who are just putting mainly free and content out for the world to read or consume or watch, like we run into situations where there are times when we have to stop. And it's been very interesting over the past year for me to, find different articles, especially like in the realms of psychology, which I really geek out about the influence of social media on creators as a whole and the toll that takes on people's mental health. And so while we love creating content and we love putting out content, there comes this place where you almost feel like the guy in Little Shop of Horrors, if you're familiar with that movie or that play, where there's this giant, carnivorous plant, and he's basically like having to feed the plant constantly because that's how you stay alive, right? So it's just like that with social media, like where you feel like you're constantly on this treadmill. And at times, I think that as bloggers or content creators in that realm, you may also feel that squeeze. It may not be as time sensitive as maybe, the feeling of I've got to post every day or I've got to post at a certain time every day may feel, but it's still there, right? Like my community of self-made writer bloggers in particular, they struggle with emailing their list consistently or putting out content every single week or whatever it may be, because it's one thing to post a picture, which I know takes a lot of time and effort, or creating a video takes a lot of time and effort. But a lot of times people, when they're writing, 2,000, 3,000 word articles, like that's a lot of love, a lot of effort, a lot of time, a lot of photos, a lot of editing that goes into that stuff. And life sometimes gets in the way and we can't always publish as consistently as we wanted to. And so her main concern that she expressed is that her audience wouldn't be interested anymore if she takes a break. And I think that's a real concern that people actually have, is like, will your readership still care? Like if you take a sabbatical, if you disappear for a minute, if life happens, will your audience still care? Great example of this is just as I'm getting right back into creating this new show, the Self-Made Writers show and podcast, it's like, it was like Murphy's law. Like if it could go wrong, it would go wrong. And so last week, my husband and I were going out for dinner one night. My parents called because they picked the kids up early for us. And they're like, oh, our son had an accident and he like fell off this thing and broke out his two front teeth. 2 adult front teeth, 10-year-old. So it's a lot. And it's not just like that happens. It's that the next week, this is how it goes down. I wake up, I get the kids on the bus. I have to call the dentist on Monday because they're not open on Friday. Call the dentist, get the appointment scheduled. I get to come right away. Great, awesome. Go get the kid from school, take them to the dentist office, take them back to school. By the time I'm done with all that, my day is gone, right? And as a person who may be a parent, you may be a caretaker, whatever it may be, stuff happens and it can get in the way of your ability to be consistent in the way that you want to be consistent. And sometimes when it rains, it pours. And I think that what happens is that we just get overwhelmed from sometimes feeling a lack of control or just lack of inspiration. And that's normal. It happens and that's okay. So if you're asking yourself, like, is it worth picking back up? I really wanted to talk about today different types of audiences. And so I think it's a good reminder if you're already familiar with this information. But in the world of marketing, okay, so people teach different concepts about, your audience and and I'm talking about marketing because I'm going to bring it back to writing. So just bear with me. Basically, they have this concept of, an audience or a consumer at any given point of their journey with you or your business is in some place. And it usually falls within being cold, warm, or hot. And those generally refer to their awareness of the problem or like their awareness of your product kind of thing. Like, do they realize they have a problem that needs to be solved? Do they know they have a problem that needs to be solved and they don't know how to solve it? Are they aware that you have a product that solves their problem? Like, this is kind of in marketing how that works. But I've been able to take that and also apply it to blogging and readership, right? Because in any given situation, I mean, think about yourself as a person who reads online content or reads articles on the internet. At any given point, you are probably either cold, meaning that you've just kind of like stumbled on something. It might be, you were on Pinterest looking for a pad thai recipe and, you found a pad thai recipe, you went to the website, you got what you needed and you left. And you really probably don't remember the name of the blog, the author of the article, any of that. You just needed to get in and get out, right? Or like you need to know how to do something. And so you're like, I can't remember how to boil an egg or whatever it may be. So you Google it, you get there, you get the information. And it's not like you're now a super fan of whoever wrote that article. Like, you got what you needed and you bounced, right? And for people who have monetized their website through advertising or affiliate links or whatever, mainly just advertising, like, you have earned an income from that person, right? Like, so even though that person is not necessarily a super fan of yours, like, you have gained a person in your Google Analytics who now shows up as a page view. You have gained potentially ad revenue from that person seeing the ads on your recipe or on your website. Like, there's benefits to that cold audience, right? Even though you may never see them again. And then the next thing is a warm audience. And so when you're looking at a warm audience, maybe they visited your content before, maybe they started following you on social media somewhere. And they're really interested in kind of getting to know you more. They might have like read an article and been like, this person's really interesting. Let me go to their About Me page, or like, let me see what they're doing on social media or whatever it may be. And then you get into a situation where somebody becomes hot, or a fan essentially. And they're the kind of people who would end up like subscribing to your email list. They watch all your videos, they listen to all your podcast episodes. Generally, if you come out with like a product, ebook, whatever, they're going to get it because they just like everything that you do. And that's ideally where we would love for every reader to get to, right? But not everybody is going to be that way. And that's okay, because you have to remember, we can't control ever really where our readership comes from. We can't control their motivations. We can't control why they're there. We can't control how long they stay. All we can do is do what we can do to try to help those things, right? So like, if we want them to stay a little bit longer or to venture more into our articles, then we make efforts like, read more articles like this, or, with hyperlinks to other articles we've written. We might call them to action to subscribe or follow us, and like, I'll give you an example. This weekend, like, I started watching these like travel YouTubers who are doing different kind of things on trains and like things like that, and are doing reviews of that sort of thing. And there were certain people that I watched that I was like, this is a great video. Like, I enjoy this person's voice. I enjoy the way that they present the information. They do a great job with like the camera. Like, it doesn't make me sick. All the things that they're doing are great. And then it was like, somebody else could do the exact same topic And like, just, I don't jive with their personality. Like, I don't jive with maybe where they're at in life. Like, something doesn't connect, but that doesn't mean that they're not a good content creator. It just means they're not the right person for me. And so I want to point out these things because I think it's important for you as a writer, as a creator, to say, I'm not going to be for everyone all the time. And I'm not always going to create fans out of every person that visits my website. And so I think going into it, number one, with kind of understanding that and not having this like unrealistic view of the way that readership works, is important to set you up to answer the real question of, if you take a break, are people going to abandon you? And I would say no. I would say, if you, for example, I'm just going to use myself as an example. If you're a listener of the Just Start Blogging podcast and you really, really enjoyed that podcast, you know that I took a break. Like, I have not produced a podcast in months, and that's because I needed to. Like, I needed to take a personal break. I needed to do a personal reset. And I have gotten so many letters since I restarted with people saying like, oh, I'm so glad you're back. I'm so glad, that you took time to take care of yourself, all these things, because those people actually like are interested in what I have to say. They find value in what I have to say. And it didn't really matter necessarily that I took a few months off. They came back. And so the question is like, will you lose readership? It's possible that you will. Like, there's a possibility that your warmer audience, people who are kind of in the middle anyway, they, you may disappear and then be like, I didn't, oh yeah, I remember that person, yeah, maybe I'll come back or not, but then you've got your fans who are like, oh yeah, like, this is great. I'm so glad you're back, whatever. And so I think that at times what happens is that we get in our own heads. We say to ourselves, okay, I've taken a break. Well, now nobody's going to remember who I am. Is it even worth going back and doing? And yes, it is. Because as you get back into it, you're going to warm your audience back up again. You're going to warm your fans back up again. And you're going to engage again with the people who actually are interested in what you have to say. And the people who aren't, it's okay. And you always have to remember, like, every day is a new opportunity for new readership. And so every time you create, every time you publish, every time you share it is an opportunity for you to gather someone new to read your content, who will either read it for the benefit of themselves and your wallet, will be interested in reading more, or they'll become fans, and you'll have that readership who is dedicated, or that consumer who is dedicated to what you're doing. And it doesn't really matter like how long you're taking a break. Another great example of this, in the world of writing, is the Twilight series. So like, don't give me a hard time. Like, this all came out in my early 20s. So I was like so obsessed with all of those books back then. And so pretty much like when she released the new book, from the Twilight series that has from Edward's perspective, I was really excited because it was like, it was something that I remembered and something that I enjoyed from years ago. And so even though it's been, I don't even know, 10 years, 10 plus years.
So in editing this video, I looked it up. It's been 17 years. Oh my God. I cannot believe it's been 17 freaking years. Oh my God.
The moment I opened the cover of that book, I was right back to that point. And so, I really do hope that she brings out more books in the future because I will read them. And so there's just different ways to kind of see that. And I think the important thing is to always look at yourself and say, like, how do you consume things? What happens when your favorite people go away and then come back? Like, do you still follow them? And just remember, like, if you're in the very beginning of your journey, it's okay. Like, everybody starts somewhere. So if you're at the beginning of your journey, your job is to be as consistent as you can and do your best. And one of the best things I can just say for those people out there who are like, I'm going to have to take a sabbatical, like, Kim, what is the bare minimum thing that I should be doing, if you're a blogger in particular, to keep my audience engaged, or really to focus on your fans? And that is just continue to write emails. So if you have an email newsletter, like, those people have given you their email addresses, they are interested in hearing from you. And if they get to where they're not, they're going to unsubscribe. No big deal. That's what people do. You've done it. I've done it. It happens. Like, there's just times in life when people either outgrow the people that they're with or whatever it may be, right? Like, I've followed plenty of people, but I don't necessarily follow them anymore because I'm in a different season of my journey, or I'm in a different season of my life. And so people will come and people will go. Fans will come, fans will go. And all you can do is just serve them in the time that they're following you. And your only job is to not overthink that. Your job is to put out the best content that you can, to put it out as consistently as you can, because you are putting out free information. You are doing your very, very best to put this out. And there are going to be times in life when you just can't do it. That's okay. There's going to be times in your life when you're super jazzed and you do it all the time, and that's great. But at the end of the day, what I want to encourage you to say is, bottom line question is, will my audience be interested anymore if I take a break? And the answer is yes. Your fans will be interested, and those people will be there as long as you are able to serve them in the situation that they're in. They will move on, and new people will come into the spots of being fans again. And that is kind of the life cycle of readership and fans and things like that. And there's going to be people that you may be able to serve their whole journey, depending on where they're at. And there's going to be people who you only serve for a season of their journey. But the key is, don't overthink it. The only thing that you can do is focus on putting out content when you feel inspired to put out content, and when you're most enthused to put out content, when you're jazzed about putting out content, and know that there's going to be at least one person who has a positive experience with whatever you've put out, whether you're a DIYer, a recipe maker, whether you write inspirational stuff, whatever you're doing it because you love it. You do it because it's enjoyable. You're doing it for you a lot of the time. And sometimes, sometimes you're inspired to do it for other people. But if you have that attitude of, this is for me, I'm going to put this out for me, and put it out in the world, hopefully it helps somebody out there. And as long as you have this positive attitude, and as long as you stop overthinking your control over your audience, you're going to be good. You don't get to control who comes to your blog, when they come to your blog, how long they stay. All you control is what you put out in the world. And all you have to do with that is do your best and not overthink it. I hope that you guys have really enjoyed today's episode. Please go check out clever.fm so that I can engage with you on there, because I would love to make more episodes based on questions like these, because I know that these are going to be the things that really help you guys. If it's questions you're already asking, and I know these are things that other people are thinking about too, I am so excited to write and create and develop new episodes that really support you in what you're doing. So thank you so much. Again, I'm Kim from KimAndersonConsulting.com, and I hope that you guys have an amazing day, and whatever you do, just keep writing. And if you have any questions or anything, please check out the show notes, because I have links to all the things that I've mentioned in today's episode, as well as links to some other things you might be interested in checking out. Be sure that you subscribe to this YouTube channel so that you can get more of these. And if you're a podcast listener, head on over to your favorite podcasting app and subscribe to the Self-Made Writers podcast with Kim Anderson. Thanks so much. Have a great day.